Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Admiral, I find it just fascinating, the comment you made when you were speaking to Mr. Lawson, in that the comments that were made around that table from other countries saying that there is a shortage of icebreakers. And so as a business owner and someone, you know, who tries to live the American dream, I recognize that we have an opportunity, of course, if we help and promote our private sector maritime industry, where we could be a leader in having a private ice-breaking fleet. So, you know, again, it's an interesting twist, because it would be great to see those countries say, you know, Admiral, boy, I tell you, you know, Americans just are making first-class icebreakers that we'd like to lease from you all as well. Do you agree that 10 icebreakers, based upon the 2010 high latitude study, is what you all need? 6 heavy and 4 medium icebreakers. Do you agree with that?
Well, sir, we could certainly put those to use. You would need that many to do a persistent presence, in other words, keeping an icebreaker up in the Arctic at all times of the year, and also having the ability to be down at the Antarctic as well. The high latitude study looked at that, and you're really looking at both those areas.
And of course, I think we can all agree that we probably, in the current fiscal condition we in, would never be able to appropriate the money to build 10. So would you prefer to have 5 icebreakers you own or 10 you lease?
I would have to think about that. That sounds like an intriguing deal, but I'm just not sure.
Okay. I mean, I think I know what the answer is, but I appreciate it. I mean, because I certainly would like you to have what the study would recommend that we would have, and that'd be the maximum amount of vessels that we could put up there. I know that a recent Coast Guard study projected that a cost of $859 million to design and construct a new heavy icebreaker. Is that the total cost of the icebreaker?
Yes, sir.
So that would include the cost for regularly scheduled overhauls?
No, that's the price for constructing the icebreaker itself, and then you would have to put annual budgetary authority in our operating expenses to then maintain it, and of course money for periodic overhaul.
And then, of course, eventual decommissioning costs as well, I would assume. Well, let me ask you this. If it's going to cost us $859 million to build one new heavy icebreaker, would the Coast Guard be putting all of the cost of that build in the first year of the appropriation, or would it spread it out in multiple years?
Sir, that's speculation, because I would make the case that this is something that should not be a burden solely upon the Coast Guard budget. Icebreakers are used to support across the government operations.
And I agree with you as well, Admiral. I'm just trying to understand from a budgetary perspective how we would attack this in recognizing how CBO would score it. In other words, when you would make the request, regardless of whether you'd go to other agencies to put in their pot of money, would we take that $859 million and just add that into the first year, or would we try to spread it out based upon the construction time of the vessel?
No, you would start out with certain smaller amounts of money to take you through the acquisition process in terms of design specifications, and then down select of designs from multiple companies, and then you would not put the bulk of that money in until you are ready, you've down selected and ready to start construction.
Mr. Chairman, I find this fascinating because when we try to score the lease, the CBO puts it all up in the first year. And so we're not able to compare apples to apples. It's like an apple to an orange. I mean, the Admiral just said, and I think he's right, in that when we would budget a new heavy icebreaker, they would spread the cost of that appropriation over a time period. But yet when we try to score the leasing, CBO puts the entire lease for the 20 years in and penalizes us in that first year.
I need to clarify that, sir, because, I mean, what we're required to do is there is certain money for design, but once you start construction, in fact, we're going through this now with the national security cutter. One of the challenges we find in terms of trying to fit the national security cutter in our budget is that OMB, under the requirements of A11, requires us to put long lead materials, construction costs, and then post-construction costs all in the same budget year. Whereas in the past, we might be able to put long lead materials in a given year and then follow on construction costs. And following strict A11 guidance has required us to put all that money in 1 year. Hence, the reason they do it with leases in terms of scoring up front as well.
Right, but I still don't think it's an apples to apples example. I mean, at the end of the day, the federal government is not going to outlay the entire cost of the lease in 1 year. And the problem we have up here, and look, it is not. It's our problem, and it's not your fault. It's that this federal government doesn't understand cash flow, and that's my point, is that we're being penalized and we're not able to truly assess a lease versus build option. Mr. Chairman.